Hello, Red Sea Catholic Radio listener. You are listening to Red Sea Roundup on 88.5 FM in the Brazos Valley, KYAR 98.3 FM in Central Texas, and KINF 107.9 FM in Palestine. Or you're listening over on YouTube or on podcast. So, I am Caleb Brawner, the Director of Radio and Media here at Red Sea Catholic Radio, and your host today for Red Sea Roundup. We are pre-recording this on Tuesday, and you are listening to this on Wednesday or thereafter. Today, I am joined by Zachary Eilers, who's going to tell us all about his missionary work with Spiritus. Zach, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Zach. Glad to have you in the studio. It's good to see you again. You've been gone a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about you left College Station a few months ago.
Yeah.
And then take us from there.
Yeah. So I left College Station. I was interested in doing some kind of mission work, a missionary year. I have a love for the faith. I have a love for aspiring youth, especially high school students.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to my vocation director for the diocese, and I had an interest in going to seminary, and he suggested I go try out this program called Spiritus up in Wisconsin to kind of discern further and just do some ministry and see how that led me. Okay,
so you went up to Wisconsin?
Yeah.
And tell us what Spiritus is. I don't think a lot of us are familiar with Spiritus.
So Spiritus, we run retreats throughout the state of Wisconsin for elementary, middle, and high school students. Mostly high school students, mostly confirmation retreats. Some of them are in-house in our retreat center. Some of them are out-of-house at parishes. We also receive weekly formation. So from lay leaders, from priests, from deacons, from people throughout the Green Bay.
You as missionaries receive?
As missionaries, yeah. So we as missionaries receive formation. And so, the mission of Spiritus is twofold. It's to ignite the faith in Catholic youth and then to form these young people to be leaders for the church for the future. Many Spiritus missionaries go on to become priests or religious. So they have formed holy marriages, holy mission-oriented marriages.
Okay, so how long has this program been going on?
It's been this is our 15th year.
Okay, cool. So it's a relatively new program.
Yeah.
And is only in Wisconsin?
Right now, they're only in Menasha, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But we run retreats throughout the state.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, in working with young people, and I know you and I have talked about this at length, what would you say are some of the unique issues facing young people right now that you've noticed?
Ooh, young people. A lot of them are hungry for peace and connection with God. And so prayer is a really important part of our retreats, telling our stories of how we connected with God, how God kind of moved in our lives. Some of them have more intellectual questions too. Some of them are like, I don't believe, or I have a question about this, or just they have doubt. A lot of these students, some of them, they're being drawn from a very secular culture. And so many of them may have never met or have only rarely met a young person who's close to them in age who really loves Christ in the church. And so we get to kind of, we're formed in this, as missionaries, we're formed in we have 2 hours of prayer every day. So we get to kind of go and really like introduce these kids with a lot of fire and passion and energy to Christ and his church, and just tell our stories of how God touched our lives and why we love being Catholic, how we encountered God, how we chose faith over temptations in our own lives, how the gifts of the Holy Spirit made an impact in our lives, or how we shared and witnessed to the faith.
So you're not going to these retreats and you're giving a talk on the Eucharist or something like that.
No.
It's personal testimony.
It's personal testimony. It's not catechetical. Sometimes we'll talk about like teaching of the church in a small group or something like that. But no, it's not primarily catechetical. We're really there to be that kind of mountaintop experience, that kind of experience a student has. They're maybe in a public school or in a Catholic school, or they're going to their parish, and they come to one of our retreats and they meet these missionaries, and they hear the Christian story presented in a new way. They hear the Christian story presented in a way that's personal, a way that actually means something and has a deep and profound meaning for their own personal lives that we can kind of connect with through our own personal stories.
Yeah, I've in teaching, I taught at a school for boys that had committed sexual offenses for 6 years, and they had, obviously really bad role models for the most part. And one of the things I found was that one of the most important things I could do as their teacher teaching English was, if we were doing independent reading time or something like that, it would be a great time to get grades done or to do some paperwork or whatever. But what I found was more important for them was to actually model independent reading time. And so I would sit up at the front of the classroom and actually read my book, because I realized most of those kids had never seen an adult read before. Yeah. Especially an adult male. Yeah. And so I imagine it's something similar. You're kind of going in front of these kids and showing them there are people actually loving Jesus. Yeah. We get to kind of, like you said, model, just be kind of an inspiration, get to model like, wow, this person maybe not that much older than me, loves Christ, loves the church. What's your story? Why did you decide to grow in faith? In our culture today, that's, a lot of young Catholics may not have encountered that, may see that as something that's odd or strange, or, and so we get to kind of just be there and, inspire them, capture their hearts, ask deep questions, get to know them, maybe get to know them, ask questions about their lives, take an interest in them, and then really show them how Christ wants to work in their lives. So so a lot of them have been catechized, and so Christ is maybe, this abstract idea, this religion is this abstract idea that they've been taught in school. Or archaic idea. These rules are for the Jews 3,000 years ago or whatever, not here and now. Yeah. Yeah. It's this old idea. It's this thing that happened long ago. And if I maybe I'm not really sure about if I believe it, and I haven't really thought about it. And so it's kind of maybe like a spiritual desert in some sense, in some places. And so we get to kind of be like, no, the resurrection really happened. Christ rose from the dead. And this has profound implications for our own lives. And this is how this impacted my own life. And this is where I took it. And this is where I've gone with it. And this is how it's made my life profoundly better and amazing and awesome. And this is why you might want that too. Yeah. Yeah. When I met my wife, when I was 21 or something like that, the first things I found, besides the fact that she's beautiful, but one of the first things I found so interesting about her was that she was very serious about her Catholic faith. Yeah. And I had never met a Catholic that was serious about their faith up until that point. Yeah. And so for a lot of these kids, you're probably one of the first young people that's serious about their faith that they've ever met. What is that, how do you manage that kind of responsibility? Ooh. I try to, we start off our retreat, I always try to get to know the kids, get to know the students, I should say. Yeah, personal connection is key. Build trust, understand where they're at, understand what they care about, take an interest in their lives. If they're making jokes, laugh with them, and not in any kind of fake or, artificial sort of way. But, I have 4 younger siblings and who I laugh and joke around with all the time. So yeah, just hang around them, get to know them, understand where they're at. And then as the retreat progresses, you can start to ask deeper questions. You can start to invite them, say, hey, have you ever encountered Christ? If you were to encounter Christ, what would that mean in your life? What does it mean to live as a disciple? What does it mean? What does it mean to witness to the faith? How can we share the faith? Why might we want to share the faith, right? Asking these questions that they maybe haven't thought about. Maybe an adult in their life has kind of talked about these questions, but maybe it's never been from a person that they actually was like, that they maybe trusted or really thought that they were like. So we want the students to see themselves in us, to see, okay, we were like you. We came from the place that you're coming from. When I tell my own story, I tell about moments where I had doubt in the faith. I was like, I'm not sure if this is real. I went to a public school and, none of my teachers were Catholic. None of my friends were really Catholic. And then I tell the story of how I began to research Christianity and I learned about the Shroud of Turin, which I still love and am fascinated with today.
And how I was like, wait a second, the resurrection really happened. Like Christ, like this person, Jesus of Nazareth, actually rose from the dead, and this has profound implications for all of humanity, but particularly my own life. And so I get to walk them through. So like, yeah, I was like you. I experienced doubt. If you experience doubt, that's okay. Like doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you a bad Christian. But like, this was my experience. I was in the same place, and this is how I got out of it. And like you might, and it's never, we're never preaching to them. We're never saying you should do this. We're never saying, we're never presenting, we're not trying to present abstract ideas, right? We're never trying to teach. We're not trying to catechize. We're trying to inspire. We're trying to show them, to, in a sense, give them an example of someone who is like them, who loves Christ in a church, that they may decide that they want to follow or become more like.
Yeah. So what are some of the reactions like that you've seen in some of these kids? I mean, one of the things I think that we're facing today with a lot of the young people is just an epidemic of indifference and apathy. Yeah. And so many young people today, I know through teaching, and I tried the teaching public school and it was rough, they're dopamine addicts. Yeah. They're 6-second TikTok videos. Yeah. Get a little hit of dopamine. Yeah. And so sometimes, you're trying to talk to them about lofty ideas or virtue, and they don't get that dopamine hit from it. And so, have you had struggled with some kind of like with indifference with the kids, or are they the ones that are there are bought in for is it a weekend or is it a day?
So, our typical, like I'll give you a confirmation retreat. Sometimes they're overnight in our retreat center. We have bedrooms upstairs that students can stay in, that students will stay in overnight. Some of them are just like a day long from say, 9 a.m. till 4 or 5 p.m. in the evening. Some of them are, that's typically what they're like. Some of them are usually for about a whole day, or they're overnight. And some, about half of them are, a part of them are at our physical retreat center. So the students come in on a bus and then they leave on the bus. About the other, maybe another half of them will drive to physical parishes. So that's how the retreats are kind of organized. On a typical retreat, there's maybe 4 or 5 sessions. In each session, like we will tell our own story of how, why we so on a confirmation retreat, it's why we decided to grow in faith. Why take this adventure at all? Why climb the mountain of faith? Yeah.
Why make that decision for yourself instead of it just being like your parents' decision and stuff like that? Why? Yeah. That process of like actually taking ownership for your faith.
Exactly. Yeah. So one of us tells a story of why we personally decided that, and then we'll gently encourage them to, hey, like we just encourage you to be open to how the Spirit moves within you on this retreat. We encourage you to be open to growing in faith.
How is that received?
Sometimes we get in my own experience, I get some students who, so there's maybe some students that are like, I'm not interested in this. And, all I do with those students is you just pray for them. You treat them with love. You treat them with kindness. You smile at them. When we do one-on-one prayer, we, pray with them. And just pray for them. Ask some questions. Sometimes they're interested, sometimes they're not. I would say most of the students are not hostile to the faith. Most of them have yet to hear the faith presented by someone whom they connect with and whom they see themselves in, and who loves the church and who is presented in the faith in such a way that, okay, it makes sense for me. This makes sense for my life. I see how the faith makes a difference in my life. And so they're maybe not hostile, but that faith has yet to be ignited in them. It has yet to go, whoa, okay, I can take this seriously. Like this is a profound adventure. This gives my life a whole new direction. Rather than something that I just do that's just kind of sequestered off to Sunday and mealtime prayer and like maybe bedtime prayer.
Right.
Where it's actually this animating force for my whole life. I actually, when I go to school, when I go to public school, I'm actually thinking, okay, Christ actually rose from the dead. There's this, Christ offers his forgiveness in the sacraments. How can I share this with other people around me? Like maybe some students may come to see their school as a mission field. Their friends as, oh, wow, okay, like I can introduce my friends to Jesus. And so life can become this whole adventure. So I guess I'm rambling here.
No. This is good.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some students who maybe aren't as interested, but most of the students, vast majority of the students are not hostile and are like just kind of maybe indifferent, or just kind of like have never had that kind of moment of ignition. And sometimes the students will come up to us afterwards and say, "Thank you so much. That was amazing. That changed my life."
Yeah.
That was profound.
Wow.
Or I had one student that said, he was writing a letter. He was writing a letter to himself at the end of a confirmation retreat, and he came up to me afterwards and he said, I'm going to take faith a lot more seriously now in my life. This has been really good.
Praise God.
Yeah. And so, the retreats are short. So we're not there to kind of walk with them on this journey of faith. We're there to be that kind of mountaintop experience, to kind of ignite the faith so that they maybe go from kind of standing still in their faith life to, okay, I'm walking forward now. I'm moving forward. And then we hope and pray that, someone else that they meet in their parish, in their family, in their community, in their friend group, at their school, Catholic school, can then walk with them. And they'll start to seek out those people. They'll start to seek out groups of Catholic friends.
Yeah. Like take ownership.
Yeah. Take ownership.
Yeah, that's so important. And I think that, I think it's really cool that Spiritus is really focused on making that personal connection, because again, my main experience with high schoolers and stuff like that is through teaching. But one of the things I found was the most important. I could teach them how to use a semicolon all day long, but the most important thing was kind of like developing a pedagogical friendship with students, as much as possible, and obviously with clear and appropriate boundaries. But because then, if they see you as someone that they want to listen to, that makes all the difference.
Someone whom they trust.
And that's what it seems like y'all are doing, is you're trying not to just teach them X, Y, and Z about the Trinity.
Yeah.
You're trying to give them a personal relationship with an individual who has taken ownership for their faith, who loves God, and encourage them to do the same.
A living witness.
A living witness.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think it was Curtis Martin, or this is but basically, disciples make other disciples, right? So if these young people see us as disciples who love their faith, who love the church, that is going to rub off on them. It's naturally, okay, wait a second. Like, I had never conceived that this is what my life could look like. That this is who I could become like. This is how my life could take shape. As a young person in the church. I mean, we build trust. We get to know students. And then the sessions are all designed to be, they're not catechetical. It's not like, we're not here to just present abstract ideas. We're here to tell our own stories. Say like, okay, like, yeah, you've learned about this thing called the Trinity. You've learned about Christ, learned about his life. You learned that maybe the resurrection happened, but you've never, maybe, I can stand up there and I can talk about those things. And as if I'm just preaching and I'm just saying like, hey, there's ideas. And I think it was Pope Francis who said something along the lines of, oftentimes we hear ideas. Like, a lot of times the faith comes across as this abstract idea and it stays in the head, but never reaches the heart.
Right.
And we're really there to bring the faith from the head to the heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes me think of, I watched a video of Father Mark Goring one time, and he was talking about prayer, and he was talking about imagining that when you're praying, that your heart is like a water heater, and it's heating up your prayer, and you can feel the difference if you pray that way. Yeah. If you like really focus on like praying like through your heart, it makes a big difference, and I think it comes across to, I'm sure, the young people when they hear you speaking that way.
Yeah.
When they hear you speaking from the heart, not just
Being
saying
authentic.
words and being authentic. They are so tuned in to authenticity.
Yes.
And any kind of putting on airs just they immediately reject.
Yeah, exactly. We're not there to preach doctrine, to preach dogma. Like doctrine, dogma is very important. We're not there to just present abstract ideas. We're there to say, no one can argue with one's personal experience. So I can get up there and I can try and give these facts and arguments and evidence. And I think some of that is useful at times. I've had students tell me that. I talk about the Shroud of Turin sometimes in my small groups, as this like photograph of the resurrection, this evidence for the resurrection. But at the end of the day, it's always gonna, like, the most powerful thing is, like, God changed my life. I became a new person. God got me through this struggle. God made a difference in my own life, in my own circumstances. And he can change your life too. Right? Like, that's powerful. No one can argue with that. No one can refute that.
Yeah.
And that speaks to young people. Young people are like, whoa, okay, maybe I want this now. Maybe this means something.
Yeah.
Maybe this is like, maybe I actually do want to connect with God. Maybe I do want to pray. Maybe I do want to seek a relationship with the Lord. And maybe I want to let that relationship transform me.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful, Zach. I think it's really cool what you guys are doing. Tell me some more about, I often hear people talk about when you do some kind of mission work, oftentimes the person that has changed the most is the missionary.
Yeah.
So I know you've only been doing it for 3 months, but give us in 3 months, what have you noticed about yourself and your own journey and your own faith in the Lord? Tell us what's changed about you since you started this work.
Yeah. So we have Mass typically 4 times a week during the week, and then Mass on Sundays.
Great.
We have holy hours 4 times a week. We have Angelus. We have every day at around noon. We have morning and evening liturgy of the hours. So we have about 2 hours of prayer every weekday. That has been the biggest thing that has changed me a lot. I'm with people that feel like family now.
Yeah.
People that are brothers and sisters in Christ, friends that I'll have probably for the rest of my life. And being in that community, being in people that love Christ, that actually have no, I've decided to sacrifice 9 months of my life to inspire these young people. Being in that community has really transformed me. I have definitely grown in my prayer life a lot, in my meditative prayer, in my contemplative prayer. Like, the holy hours are, they're silent. And so, I've been getting it as the years gone. I've been progressing in my love of the Eucharist, love of Christ in adoration, in my experience in contemplative prayer, of gazing into Christ in the Eucharist, and Lord, I love you. Lord, make my heart like your own.
Yeah.
That kind of heart-to-heart connection with Christ has definitely grown. I've known a lot about my faith for a while now, but that heart-to-heart, Lord, make my heart your own. Make my desires give me a heart after yours.
Yeah.
Right.
Getting more comfortable with silence. Maybe.
With silence. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that's the thing that young people struggle with right now. Big time.
Silence.
Because even if, they're not talking, they're just taking something in constantly.
Yeah.
Many of them are obvious. I don't want to speak about all of them, but many young people nowadays, your typical public school student, living in the secular world, is just constantly taking in social media and things like that.
Yeah. It's definitely, I would say that, life, I guess the biggest thing that we try to, that I try to witness to and try to tell the authentic story, because it's not fabricated, it's not artificial, but try to convey is my life is better now. My life is amazing. My life is more adventurous. My life is more heroic. We have these, grand kind of cosmic stories that our Hollywood puts out of saving the universe.
Right.
And, and we're co-workers with God. We're co-redeemers in God's creation.
Yeah.
Right. And like that's adventurous. That's heroic. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
That's a reason to put down your phone. That's a reason to stop scrolling. That's a reason to like, that's something to get excited about. So I guess going back to what you're saying, a lot of them do live in some, I don't know what all of their personal lives are like,
right.
but I know just in general, a lot of young people, the Christian faith is something that is something that's always formed in community, right? The church is one body. The church is not like, Christianity is not this faith that is just like me and my own private relationship with God.
Right.
It's always communal, right? We're the body of Christ. And so what we get to do is I guess bring these young people into an environment where we present the story of the Christian faith in a way that's of the Catholic faith in a way that's authentic, so it's personal, and we get to show how the Catholic faith in relationship with God ultimately is something adventurous, is something exciting, is something heroic, and is something that like, because why is a person choosing distraction? Why is a person only picking up their phone? It's because probably because there's nothing more exciting. It's like, okay, well, maybe, it's like,
well, and pursuing virtue, pursuing Christ is difficult.
It is.
It's a struggle.
It is.
I constantly think of, it's Jacob that wrestles with the angel, right? That wrestles with the Lord.
I think so.
I constantly think of that. It's like, okay, here I am in the confession line again, but at least I'm wrestling.
Yeah.
At least I'm in the ring.
At least I'm in it.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of people that, I kind of have this theory, right?
Yeah.
That for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, the human race has tried to become physically comfortable.
Yeah.
And we've essentially in first world countries achieved that more or less. The average person has air conditioning and enough food to eat and things like that, and the things to make us physically comfortable.
Yeah.
And so now there's something about our restless hearts that wants to become like comfortably, like psychically comfortable, like psychologically
satiated.
Yeah, satiated and comfortable. And so we've turned that restlessness and that industriousness to become physically comfortable, physically safe, into like trying to not have to think too much or struggle with guilt or shame or being like uncomfortable
or thinking about the deeper questions of life.
Exactly.
Where's my life going?
Yeah.
What am I here for? What am I pursuing?
Right.
What am I chasing? What am I living for ultimately? I guess I would say a large part of the way I lead my small groups is I try to, especially with young guys, I try to invite them to think about those deeper questions.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Like, we have this desire in our hearts to be heroic. We have this desire in our hearts to do something great. Like, this is it. You're in the place. Like, we're, especially towards the end of the confirmation retreats, we're talking about the first Pentecost being the first confirmation, and the apostles being sealed with the Holy Spirit, and then like going out and like flipping the world upside down, transforming the world.
Especially for young men, I think that you have to show them that and convince them that there's something so manly and masculine about loving God and following Christ.
Yeah.
I think of when the missionaries were coming over and trying to convert like the Anglo-Saxons and stuff. They were like, who is this, wimpy God that died on the cross? Like, why would we follow him when we have the God of thunder and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And I think of there's a old poem. I can't think of who wrote it or if we even know. I believe it's called I Dream Upon the Rood, which means cross.
Yeah.
And it shows Christ running and leaping up onto the cross in this masculine, heroic way to try and bridge that gap for them.
Yeah.
And so how do you convince young men especially that there's something heroic and masculine about following Christ?
Ooh, I love this question.
I know we've talked about this a lot. That's why I threw it at you.
I know, I love it. I like to think, okay, John Paul II in his final apostolic letter said, I'm going to paraphrase here. He said, basically, everything possible must be done so that the gospel might be preached. And then I think souls might be saved, right? Everything possible must be done. And like we're at war. We're in a spiritual war.
Yeah.
We're playing it. We're in a war that has stakes in eternity.
Mm-hmm.
And if that maybe gives you a little bit of anxiety, like, maybe that's okay.
Good. More scary.
Yeah. More scary. I mean, it's not something to like freak out about and like be paralyzed about.
Sure.
We trust God. We trust that his judgment is going to be perfect. It's going to be just. It's going to be good. But at the same time, that understanding should compel us, like, okay, I have these gifts. Like, what can I do to build the kingdom?
Yeah.
Like, that's exciting. Like, I get to be a hero. I get to be a hero for souls. I get to be a hero for God.
Yeah.
For the God of the universe.
Well, and courage isn't an absence of fear, right?
Yeah.
It's being afraid and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
It's realizing it's coming to grips with what the stakes actually are and then acting.
Yeah. So a lot of what I tell the guys is like, hey, if you have, like, think about what you're good at. Think about what your gifts are. If you love music, okay, how can you spread the gospel? How can you share the message of Christ's life after the resurrection, or how Christ has made an impact in your life? Like, I think Christ is not like this abstract historical figure. Right. He's an event that's happening near and now.
Yeah.
Here and now. So yeah, I mean, like, are you good at speaking? Or even just like,
that was the gospel this past Sunday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Using your talents.
Parable of the talents. Yeah. And just, or maybe if you don't have any particular projects that you're interested in that you can conceive of right now, can you get to like, play a role in the salvation of the people around you.
Right.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's what Paul's talking about, right? When he's like, we can make up what Jesus lacks, or what his sacrifice lacked. And it's like, that sounds so odd when you look at it at first, and then you realize what lacks is your participation in that sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only thing it lacks is your free will participation.
Yeah.
And you get to participate in that sacrifice.
Yeah.
You get to participate
in Christ's redemptive act for all of humanity.
Yeah. It's beautiful. And there's something so enticing and heroic about that. And I think that in our society where we're kind of like at this crisis of lack of masculinity and masculinity is bad and toxic.
Yeah.
I think that there's something inspiring about that. And so, yeah, what have you seen? What have you seen? Some of the reactions. Have you seen, do a lot of the kids kind of leave on fire? Have you heard back from any of them afterwards?
Yeah, I haven't heard back from any afterwards. I do have, like, have been some students will come up to me personally and say, like, that changed my life. Thank you so much for everything. That was amazing. Or I'm going to take faith a lot more seriously now. I think a lot of it is just throughout the retreat, you just see their eyes kind of perk up.
Yeah.
You see the adventure of the Christian, like their hearts kind of awaken to the Christian adventure, right? Their hearts kind of awaken, like, wait, like there's this missionary call. I think as men in our hearts, like, we have a desire, like we all have a desire in some sense to be crucified for something great.
Yeah.
We all have a desire to sacrifice for the greater good.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, representing that is, in a way that's compelling, in a way that's, that speaks to them is, I would say, does bear fruit.
Yeah.
I would say does bear fruit. Maybe they may not always tell us verbally. Sometimes they do. But I generally see, like, almost in every retreat, there's always a group of students or several students, maybe not all of them in my small group, but always several of them that their eyes kind of widen. They take a greater interest throughout the retreat. And that's very rewarding.
Yeah, no, it is rewarding. I've felt that same way in teaching when you have a kid that just doesn't care. And all of a sudden they're like, maybe there is something. And every now and then, you have a kid who comes back or who comes to you and tells you, I've had a student that came back to me the next year and apologized for how he acted in my class. He's like, I wish I had gotten it while I was in your class. Yeah. I get it now and I'm sorry. And it's really rewarding. And I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing, that, you're planting the seeds that will grow.
We're planting seeds.
Yeah.
We're planting as many seeds as we can.
Yeah. That's so cool. Well, what else do you want to tell us about Spiritus, about your experience? We've got a few minutes, about a little over 5 minutes left.
I think it's probably been one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Yeah.
It's been a joy. It's had a transformative experience in my own heart, in the way that I see my life, in my own prayer life, in my own connection with Christ. So if you're a young person, or you know a young person and you're listening to this, and you love Christ, or this young person that loves Christ in the church, like, invite them to apply. Or if you want to support Spiritus, you can. But what else would I say?
And that's spiritus.org?
Spiritusministries.org.
Spiritusministries.org.
Other than that, see, what else would I say?
Well, speak more to that. Who do you think, if, where, how do I phrase this? Speak to where a person might be in their life that would really benefit from maybe taking this year to do something like that.
If you're a young person and you're thinking about a vocation to the priesthood, or thinking about a vocation to religious life, then Spiritus is a really great way to discern. It's why I personally went. Several of their missionaries several of their past missionaries have gone on to become priests and religious. See what else. Even if you're not interested in that, or if you don't quite think that's your vocation, if you just want to give a year to service, a year to build God's kingdom, a year to inspire youth, I think it's a particularly good mission. It's a particularly good choice. There are many missionary opportunities that you can choose from. There's no fundraising. We get to sleep in the same bed every night. We have food and housing provided. It's a really tight community. The leadership is very, very strong, very, very supportive. We get really good formation. I've gone on, so we have off days once a week. And so we've gone on a few trips throughout Wisconsin. So been able to see some of the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, which is really beautiful. So it's been quite an adventure. It's been exciting. It's very rewarding. I would say it's very busy. Like, they do keep us very busy. But I mean, that's kind of the fun of it. It's I get to just sit there and I get to point all of my talents and all of my gifts and all of my energies at inspiring the next generation of Catholics to take their faith seriously, to live the gospel call, right? And I get to present the faith to young people in a way that's exciting. Mm-hmm. And if that sounds thrilling to you as a listener, or if you think that would be thrilling to someone who you know, I don't know of any other reasons not to give it a shot if you have the time. What else would I say about Spiritus? See,
it sounds good to me. I'll have to talk to my wife.
Okay. It's been a tremendous joy. Yeah. It's been a tremendous joy. It's something that I'm glad I really, really glad I went and did.
Yeah. Well, I imagine there's something really extremely beneficial also in having appointed times for adoration. And it's like, we're going to mass, daily mass
as a
community, this time, this day. It reminds me a little bit of, because you can do all those things on your own.
You can, but it's much more fun to do them with a group of friends who are also on fire for Christ.
Well, and that it's a thing that you're going to do. It's not like an optional thing where, there's 5:30 mass this afternoon. I've got these other things to do, and kind of having to weigh whether you're going to go or not. It's like, you're going to go. It's kind of like being in like high school sports versus like all of a sudden you're in charge of working out on your own and exercising on your own. And you're like, well, I don't know. Yeah. It's probably something really beneficial about having like a scheduled time that you're going to go do a holy hour. That I think is probably really, if you're wanting to take your faith kind of to the next level and explore what that would look like.
Exactly.
That's a great way to do it, to kind of have a regimen.
Yeah. It's very structured. If you just want an environment where you get to just let like your love for Christ and love for his church and love for there's just conviction for the truth of the gospel, like overflow and reach these young people who, like maybe, this young person that has this retreat and they have this experience. And so afterwards they, maybe a week later, they're on YouTube and they click on a Bishop Barron video because now they're they're interested in faith. Yeah. And they watch that video. And so they watch another video. Or maybe it's they have a conversation.
Retrain their algorithms.
Yeah. Well, it's like in my own life, there's been all these little moments where I've had these small experiences, and that has had a profound impact on the trajectory of my own life. And I think for these young students, we're reaching them. Like a lot of them are, high school juniors, confirmation age. They're deciding where they're going to go to college next year. Are they going to get involved in Catholic campus ministry? Are they going to take their faith seriously in college and in their adulthood? So we get to reach them at a really critical time in their life.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, if you want to find more out about Spiritus, you can go to spiritusministries.org. Thank you, Zach, so much for coming in and telling us about it. I'm so glad that I ran into you down in the lobby here at St. Mary's Catholic Center, and we got to chat a little bit, and I thought of, hey, come interview. So thank you so much for joining me today on Red Sea Roundup. Thank you, audience, for joining us today. And as St. Eugene de Mazenod said, leave nothing undared for the kingdom of God. Thank you so much.